Everything reminds me of her.
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. You fools. You thought that banning a Riseheart would fix the format, but little did you know he was a load-bearing floodgate. Like Atlas, he held the stability of Yu-Gi-Oh! On his back, and without him, tears will be shed. They're back. Presenting Tearlament. So here's the list, which was just completely thieved from Jesse Cotton. No King of the Swamp at all. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the #1 place to go if you need a pack simulator, a card database, or want to read a wealth of strategy articles. They also post breakdowns and lists from every major TCG and Master Duel tournament, including the Master Circuit series. Give them a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's take a look at Tearlament. Tearlament is one of the most resilient and one of the most powerful decks in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. These mermaids have mangled every format they've ever been a part of in any form of legality. In the OCG, they just entered their 8th consecutive wave of bans. In Master Duel, they just banned Merly alongside one of the Millers, and people are still playing it. So it's no surprise that in the TCG, the format in which it is currently the most legal, it would catch the eye of duelists. Except, there was one thing preventing the Tearlament takeover. One monster who was functionally an auto-win against the strategy. One big, walking macrocosmos. Kashtira, a Riseheart. Until now! Ding dong, a Riseheart's dead, and with his expiration, the mermaids are once again peeking from the planet Pellerino. Without an auto-loss matchup in the format, the deck's a lot more playable, and its only peer in power in Unchained has a teensy bit of a problem with cards like Keldo and Mudora. Sure, the deck's more bricky than it's been in the past, and sure, there's not a ton of room for non-engine, but make no mistake, this was the most represented deck in the top cut of Dortmund for a reason. Somehow, Tearlament has returned. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, 3 Diviner of the Herald. This usually sends a level 4 fairy from your deck to the graveyard, one of the Millers if you need your plays started. Speaking of, the Yoshizu cards, one a piece of Kelbeck, Keldo, Mudora, and Agido, the last place where it's legal. After that, we've got the Tearlaments, 3 copies of Tear Cash. This card's not fantastic, but it's like a discount Havness that doesn't have the right typing to fuse with anything worthwhile. That said, it's a 3, so we're playing it. 2 copies of Tearlament Rhinoheart. You do have pretty consistent access to this card through 3 copies of Pellerino, so no reason to go all the way in. 1 apiece of Havness, Sheeran, and Merly, and then a bunch of nonsense. We are playing a lot of cards in order to facilitate end boards, including 2 copies of Destiny Hero Malicious. Theoretically, you can use this card as a 6 for half of Beatrice. After that, we've got a copy of Denier as well, Shadal Beast, a Hell Shadal Hollow in order to enable a Shadal line in the extra, which includes, of course, Shadal Winda. And then after that, a Destrudo the Lost Dragon's Frisian and 2 Gamciel. This is not only a removal spell, it's also an aqua. For spells, we are on Card Destruction, Foolish Burial, 3 Pellerino, 1 Tearlament's Heartbeat, 3 Tearlament's Scream, a Terraforming, and triple Tactics Talents. For traps, we are on 1 apiece of Metanoise and Trivi Karma, which if it's milled is kind of a searcher, and then 2 copies of Tearlament Celiac. In the extra, we are on Destiny Hero Dangerous. This is a 6 that can be fusion summoned into, which alongside Malicious can make a Beatrice. We have an El Shadal Winda, a Garua Wings of Resonant Life, also 6 stars, Mud Dragon of the Swamp, Dragostapelia, Rukalos, and Kaleidoheart. For Xyz, we are on Abyss Dweller, which we can make really easily, Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, Zeus, and Time Thief Redoer. And then for links, we have Access Code Talker, Cross Sheep, Dark, and Sprind. In the side, we have a pretty big Bestial package, the Limited Magnamut, and 3 Druis Worm, 2 copies of Phantasme, a Necro World Banshee, and a Zombie World. Flu's back, and we have to respect it. 1 Feather Duster and 2 Lightning Storm, 3 Xyz Encore, and a Tearlament's Crime. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against, wow, that Dogmatica Ritual deck. Whatever Whatever happened to that thing? Our opponent's drawn a hand trap, so let's see if we can play through it. We're going to normal summon this Merly and then activate the effect of the Scream in sequence, milling 6. That includes a Malicious and a Destrudo and a Rhino Heart. We're going to trigger the effect of the Rhino Heart, pitching this copy of Tear Cache and walking directly into a Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. We do get to mill a couple of more because of the Tear Cache, but unfortunately we hit the other Malicious, which sucks. Meta Noise is going to cycle back the Tear Cache and we can go for its effect, and then afterwards we can triple Tactics Talents into a Pellerino. That's going to grab us a Havness. We're going to do as little as possible here. Let's just make Cross Sheep, set 1 and pass. Our opponent will draw for turn. It is a hand trap. They're going to begin with a normal summon of Cartesia. We'll activate Scream. That's going to Fiend and Ash Blossom. Afterwards, we'll activate the effect of the Cartesia, which we will fire a Celiac in response to. That'll trigger the effect of the Merly in Graveyard. We're going to go ahead and shuffle back this Malicious for a Mud Dragon of the Swamp, which triggers the Cross Sheep in order to summon a Diviner. We'll activate the effect of the Diviner in order to send a Guido, and we'll mill 5. We go for a Tear Cache into Shaddoll Beast here. Shaddoll Beast is going to draw us a card. That copy of Scream is going to get us a Celiac, and unfortunately, we don't hit anything else relevant. Our opponent's going to go into Fleur de Lis. We will just go ahead and activate Havness on activation on field, and then they'll walk over the Mud Dragon of the Swamp. They're going to get over all but these two, but that's fine. As they go into Lulu Walaith, we can use the Keldo in Graveyard in order to shuffle 3 cards back, including a copy of a Tearlament monster, so we can use Pellerino to pop our own Havness and activate Havness's effect to go into Dragostapelia. That contests the Lulu Walaith and allows us to get to the next turn. Should be able to win from this position. We'll draw for turn, and yeah, that'll do it. We're going to go ahead and activate Malicious now that we've shuffled one of them back into the deck, and then afterwards we can make it dark. They're going to activate Lulu Willith again, but still negated. We'll normal summon this Diviner. That Diviner is going to send a copy of Kelbeck to the graveyard. We'll activate Kelbeck. That's going to mill 5, including a Hell Shaddoll Hollow, which we will use to mill a couple more, including a Beast and a Havness. We'll use Beast Effect and Havnesses in order to go into the big boy himself, Tearlament Kaleido Heart. Let's spin that copy of Lulu Willith and pop that back row and chain block it all with Tearlament Scream. Afterwards, we're going to activate Merly's Effect in graveyard just to stunt on them hoes, summon a copy of El Shaddoll Winda, and get in for well over lethal. God, I have missed this. Our second match is up against Chimera, and honestly, I am constantly one step away from picking up this deck, and then I see a hand like this that cannot play through Ash Blossom under any circumstances. Well, no matter, we don't have it, so our opponent's going to reveal off the Prosperity. Nothing. Oh, Branded Fusion. Okay, well, that's pretty good. They're going to go Branded Fusion here, which is a 1-card combo. It's going to send to the graveyard not only a copy of Albaz, but also a copy of Gazelle. That's going to get them a Cottle into a copy of Mirror Sword Knight, which can translate into a Big Wing Berfomet. They're going to activate Berfomet, get a couple of cards from their deck to their hand, then fire off a Chimera Fusion to go into a Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts. Whoa, careful there, buddy. They're going to summon back the Mirror Sword Knight and activate the effect of the Chimera Fusion and set that bad boy before passing back to us and hitting Kelbeck. Okay, we got the Ash out of their hand. Should be able to do it from here. We draw for turn. That's an unbelievable draw. Just a really good one. We're going to tribute over their monster for a Gamciel, then fire off card Destruction. Afterwards, we're going to trigger in the graveyard the effect of Celiac and the effect of Scream. They're going to chain Chimera Fusion, but not a lot they can do here. They're just going to go into Chimera the Illusion Beast. Afterwards, we'll go for a Pellerino. We are going to go ahead and grab a monster, then go for Shiren. That Shiren's going to send that Hell Shaddoll Hollow to the graveyard. We'll trigger a Meta Noise as well. Cycle back this Rhino Heart, then activate Tear Cache's effect to mill a couple. We're going to hit a Beast and a Merly, which we will use both of. We're going to shuffle back one of these Maliciouses for a Dangerous and activate the Pellerino effect to get that Coddle out of the graveyard. Now that they've activated a monster effect, it's triple tack time, and they'll concede. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on What Else Unchained, and we're going to lead with the card Destruction. They have the Ash for it, which is unfortunate because this was a really sick card Destruction. We'll go for Shiren afterwards. We're going to send this copy of Shaddoll Beast to the graveyard, and what do we hit but Kelbeck? Awesome, let's mill some more. We're going to trigger the effect of the Havness and the Tear Cache and the Scream in sequence. Our opponent gets a Sharvara, which is annoying, but hardly the end of the world. It's just going to give us a target later in the turn for Kaleido Heart. We're going to go into a Mud Dragon, then activate the effect of the Tear Cache in hand, milling 3, including an Agido. Wow, we are really batting 1,000 here. We're going to go for Merly. They hit Fiendish Rhino Warrior, which allows them to send a Shiyama. That's a little annoying. We're going to shuffle 3 back for a Kaleido Heart and shuffle that back row. Then afterwards, it's time to extend. We're going to go for Malicious, summoning a Malicious from deck. Then afterwards, we're going to make a Redoer into a Dark. We'll normal summon the Denier, shuffle back the Malicious for Malicious. Then you can Redoer out so we can make a Garua and a Beatrice. But I wasn't expecting the Ghost Ogre. We went a little too ham here. I guess we'll just make Cross Sheep and pass. Our opponent draws for turn, and that's a pretty good one. They're going to begin with the effect of the Shiyama in graveyard. We're going to go for the Mudora here, but unfortunately, that does still allow them to activate the effect of the Abomination's Prison to go into a copy of Sharvara. They'll also triple tack, so we have to Celiac here, targeting the Sharvara so we can get this Kaleido Heart off the field, then in a new chain resolve its effect. Shuffling back this copy of Sharvara and triggering the effect of the Havness in graveyard to go into a Dragostapelia. They're going to fire off a Pot of Prosperity, but honestly, I'm not sure what does it at this point. Arua's good, but not in this board state. They're going to go ahead and take it and then normal summon it, and then unfortunately concede. So it's time for game 2, and Destiny Hero Malicious in the opener. Some things never change. Our opponent's going to go Aruha Pop Chamber. They'll activate the effect of the chamber to grab a copy of Sharvara. Next, they're going to make a Yama. Activate the effect of the Yama and the effect of the Sharvara in sequence. Going to set a copy of Escape and then grab that Sharvara back. They're going to go for Sarama. Sarama target Aruha, pop Aruha, then trigger Aruha for Blue Dog. Shyama and the Yama to the graveyard for a Rage. Then Shyama to pop this copy of Sarama in order to grab from deck a Sharvara. That's going to go into the DDD King. Whoa! Don't make Machinex. Okay, well, they may have just outed their board for us. They're going to go for Escape here on Pellerino, popping their dog, but then they can activate Yama here to bring him back. Okay, we'll go for Shiren. That's going to walk into an Ash Blossom, and now all we have to contest is this. We'll go for the Kelbeck here to bounce this copy of Machinex, and they'll trigger the effect of the Sharvara in order to set a copy of Wailing. We're going to go Foolish Burial here, sending in Agido, then activating the effect of the Agido for 5. Put our faith in our deck, and we are rewarded. We'll mill a couple of more, and then activate the effect of the Rhinoheart and the Shiren. Our opponent's going to Rage. That's fine. Anguish all you want. We're going to go ahead and shuffle back a Malicious for a D-Hero Dangerous. We're going to send a copy of a Havness to the graveyard to make a Mud Dragon, which allows us to go into Abyss Dweller. We're going to Dangerous Effect here as well as Abyss Dweller. We're going to send a Denier to the graveyard, then Mally for Mally. That's 2 6s, so we can overlay for a Beatrice. We'll go to the battle phase and walk over everything. Of course, they're under Abyss Dweller here, so no float off the Anguish. Then we'll activate Beatrice in order to send a Mudora. We're going to activate Diviner of the Herald, then Mudora to put back a couple of cards from our opponent's deck and send from deck to graveyard the same Kelbeck. We'll trigger the effect of the Kelbeck and then the effect of Denier as well. That's going to shuffle back one of our banished Maliciouses. It allows us to go into Dark, activate the effect of the Dark for a Rage, and then afterwards go into a Sprint. We have not yet fused with Merly, so we can activate Merly's effect here, shuffling back the Merly and the Dangerous for a Dragostapelia. God, this deck is so annoying. I love it. Not so fast. Abyss Dweller time. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Pot of Prosperity. That's shocking. They find off the top some pretty good stuff, including a tour guide from the Underworld, which they will be taking. This is maybe a misplay on my part. They go tour guide from the Underworld, and then we activate Dragostapelia, and they chain the known copy of Sharvara, but in my defense, I don't have object permanence. They're going to go for Rakaya here. We'll go Sprint in order to bounce the Sharvara. They're going to flip up the Wailing, then Aruha, targeting the Wailing, popping it, and then linking off for a Yama. They'll go Yama here in order to just get into a position where they can Abominable Unchained Soul and eat the board. They will go ahead and activate the effect to pop the Dragostapelia, then get over the Beatrice, but with what we have in grave, we should be able to contest the field. We draw a Rhinoheart as well, which just checks the Ash Blossom. We'll go into Malicious here to go into Access Code Talker. We're going to activate the effect, and then we will normal summon the Rhinoheart, activate the effect, get ashed, and then afterwards just go ahead and access code that monster. They get to trigger Yama here, which brings back Rage. We access code again. I guess they weren't holding A. They'll go Rage in order to grab back Soul, and we'll get in for lethal. So we're back with the deck, and feels good to be once more bathed in the water of Pellerino. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. All your monsters are great into the common types of removal. Unchained has a tough time removing any tier monsters at any moment for fear of triggering them, so you're relatively safe against destruction or sent to graveyard effects. 2. Kaijus are pretty good this format. They often remove multiple interruptions from Unchained and shutting down Chimera Branded's extra negates. It's not only good removal, though, it's also a great monster for fusing into Kaleido Heart. And 3, of course, the Ashizu Millers are still invaluable. Milling 5 of your own cards is incredible for the deck, but in a diverse format, the bonus of deck knowledge on your opponent turn 1 makes them still the powerhouses of the strategy. There's a reason they're limited. And the cons. 1. Dweller. This one's both a pro and a con. The deck can quite easily access Dweller, which means if you win the die roll, you can reinforce your own board against Unchained or an opposing tier player, but being hit with it from your opponent can shut you down entirely, and people may start doing it blind if this and Unchained are the 2 best decks. Unfortunately, it's still often an auto win when used against you. 2. The Bestials are still bad, and still thriving in every side deck. Some mains. Due to only having 3 1-ofs that fuse, every Bestial could theoretically end your turn depending on your mills, and to make matters worse, DD Crow and Ghost Bell are seeing a resurgence. These cards can collapse your game plan, and their prominence might lead to the deck's downfall. And 3, as it's always been, the deck's very hard. A less experienced pilot will frequently be punished by a lack of skill and lose many winnable games by minor misplays. In the hands of a skilled pilot, though, the deck is already seeing impressive results. Overall, while this strategy is a shadow of its former self, that's still enough for this old, stubborn archetype. It's looking like Tearlament is back to being one of the best decks of the format. Thanks so much for watching. A huge shouts out to all of my patrons, but specifically Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Bacon for Hire, Brett Henry, Kenor, Da Bears, Darkmaster Zork, Derpin Dragon, DJ Elephant, John Piet, Jordan Kuntz, King Magic Ruler, Knight Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Melfi Stan, Mike Carlotti, Puffins of Doom, Rose Lapine, Solar Flare the Ricka Queen, Storm King 01, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Vincent Storm, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, Yuki, and Your Socks Are Moist Again. Couldn't do it without you.